Good afternoon. Welcome to the live session of today, the actual proper lecture of the first time of this EPP course of PLT um, under NPTEL, of course. The purpose of this session is particularly to simulate something of a real classroom. When in the context of the ongoing discussion in class, some new question gets triggered in your mind, you ask that question and you get an answer. What happens in real actual classroom. And indeed, we are going to take advantage of the fact that many of the questions we already have with us, and we will start our discussion with that. But in between, after my answers to some of these questions, or even otherwise, if new questions come to your mind, you can ask those questions through the same form, and some of our team members are sitting to organize those queries for me to answer. Okay? And to the extent possible, I will try to give high priority to academic kind of questions other than those who are which are related to the administrative issues, network issues, and of course financial issues, including certificates and so on. Okay? So those things will be lower in our priority. In comparison, academic questions related to learning and teaching, those questions will be high priority among my responses. Even among them, questions related to teaching will be accorded the highest priority. Okay? So please try to follow the responses that I give as much as possible through internet and network rather than actual classroom. And as questions come to your mind, you send them through to us through these forms. Okay. So out of the questions that have been collected by my team members, to begin with, one question is how to teach proverbs integrating ELT and translation. Truly speaking, even in our own languages, it is very difficult to teach proverbs to anybody. Okay. So proverbs typically come in conversation in compositions, and you encounter them, and if you have a very good grounding in the language and culture of the people speaking that language, then typically you get the meaning. Okay? To the extent we are not habituated with the initial culture historically of England, it is a little awkward for us to follow English proverbs. Compared to that, proverbs of our own country, even from other linguistic groups, we find easier to understand. For example, very few people know the meaning, or meaning everybody knows, very few people know the origin of the phrase or idiom raining cats and dogs. Okay? We all know what is heavy rain. Okay? In fact, in our country, it really rains cats and dogs rather than in England, but the idiom raining cats and dogs is an English idiom. At one historical milieu of England, where the roofs were not of solid concrete, there used to be thatched roofs, and cats and even dogs sometimes used to take shelter in them. And as the house becomes old, under heavy rain, they would not sustain, and those cats and dogs would start falling with the rain through the roof. Okay? So that is why extremely heavy rain is raining cats and dogs. Okay? So you see, the grounding of this idiom is in a historical and cultural milieu rather than any logic. So it is difficult to teach proverbs like this one by one, because if I want to do that, or if some teacher wants to do that, she has to go on narrating such tales. These are interesting for a classroom, okay? But over a short period of time, it is very difficult to teach like that through the roots. However, your issue is integrating ELT and translation. So for that, what you can do is that there are many proverbs which have a connection across languages, and such proverbs you can teach through translation also by getting the appropriate proverb in our own language, and you tell the English proverb and you tell the CLL proverb, and then you explain why they mean the same thing even though they are coming from different contexts. So that is one issue, one way. Another is, of course, the way we mostly ended up picking up many of the English proverbs is by reading a lot. When you read a lot, you come across proverbs, and when the same proverbs come again and again, sometimes you develop a sense of the meaning, and sometimes you consult some dictionary or website or senior. When I say senior, I mean somebody who knows a little better English or equivalent English, okay? Who knows this, you expect. So by consulting a dictionary or a reference of some kind, which may be a human being, you get such answers, okay? So the first thing necessary is to encounter them to begin with. Then only you can ask those questions, okay? Another question is, please can you elucidate the uses of will have, would and could once more? You see, this is the advantage of having an online course in which the lecture stays in the network, is that if first time it did not become very clear, then you can attend the lecture once more, okay? In normal lectures, that typically does not happen. So that option is always open. And of course, beyond that, so far as covering the same topic for another 15-20 minutes in another session, at this fag end of the course, it is going to be a little difficult to do that, because there are a few other things which we are committed to cover and complete, okay? But of course, you can see those same lectures once more, and of course you can consult proper grammar book on this. The main question is that the question has come to your mind. Once you have captured the question, half the problem is actually solved. The difficulty is when people do not get the questions to begin with, okay? Okay. The third question is how to be a fluent speaker without having a good hold on English grammar. Okay. We have a lot of fluent speakers without a good hold on English grammar. They speak, and they speak a lot of wrong English, yet they communicate. And to the extent the purpose of speech is communication, their job is done, okay? But whatever image or whatever impression they build up among educated listeners, that may have other benefits, other advantages, but certainly the image of good English is not made, which also has a merit, a value. However, having said that, I would also like to emphasize that it is very, very essential to speak, and it is very, very essential to speak wrong, okay? Because unless you start speaking wrong English, you will never start speaking right English. The reason of mistakes in speech, which happens even to accomplished speakers, is not that somebody does not know, but there is another difficulty, there is another predicament. When somebody speaks, quite often it happens that he starts a sentence with one theme in mind, one orientation in mind, and on the way, halfway through the sentence, he revises his orientation, his plan of the sentence, and then he ends up completing the sentence with a different grammatical framework. Okay. So, the reason for that is the human thought process does not stop after you have started uttering a sentence. Through the sentence, your thoughts, your planning, your strategy of communication keeps on evolving, and through the evolution, if you suddenly stop, if you suddenly spot a better way to communicate, it is quite often impossible for you to control yourself from taking that opportunity. And so, you reorient your communication and try to express the same thing in the revised better framework. And sometimes you fail to reconcile the old starting point and the later ending point. And then the entire sentence put together, if it is thrown back to you at a proper English grammar class, you may start looking in some other directions. Okay? Such things happen to everybody. It happens to me also, I am admitting. But that is the reason. So, you cannot decide that after my English is perfect and after I stop making any mistakes in grammar, then I open my mouth, then you will never open your mouth. Okay? So, most of us, if not all of us, have started at a point where we sort of knew that when we write reasonably all right, but when we speak, somehow things do not come to the lips at the right time. Okay. And some of us stop midway and start processing in the brain, and then some of us never recover from that processing. So, they stay silent. That is not a good idea. You quickly extract something from your mind and start speaking, continue speaking, and force yourself to complete your speech. That way, one immediate cash advantage is that you get heard, your communication reaches home, and through this practice, the brain is continuously at work. It develops ideas, stores ideas, and builds tactical and strategic assets by which next time it will do a better job. And therefore, it is very, very important to be shameless and speak. Never mind that it is not right English. Right English will come with time. Okay? Another, can we get access to soft copy of the lessons being broadcasted? It is broadcast. Okay? Can we get access to the soft copy of the lessons being broadcast? You already have it. This entire material with all the links operative are sitting at the website free for everybody to view and use. Okay? Use for learning and use for teaching. And we do not mind at all if you take this entire material and teach in your coaching class and you be rich. All our best wishes are with you. Okay? So, it is not at all of our concern that with our material somebody may become rich. Please be rich and please be with our material. Okay? So, this entire material is freely available for learning and teaching for all over the world. Okay? Where it is? When you try to access every lesson, in the beginning a website comes in which the mouse slowly goes and points to a site, and that is the place where PELT diary has been kept, and it was announced on the first day itself in the first lecture. So, that is the place where we are keeping all this material, okay, whatever has been used in class till now, including assignments and other notes, even those notes which have not been used in the class. For example, these. Okay. So, we have the soft copy available, and since that is housed in my own website, my own area, I intend to keep it there for some more time till I need it somewhere else and disk space becomes an issue. Okay. Queries regarding final exam, time, syllabus, model papers, etc. Time is 3 hours, starting when and ending when, that I do not know, but administrative partners must have informed everybody. So, it is not so right saying I do not know. I should say I do not remember exactly, because I am not appearing in the exam. Okay. But I am sure the course admin has communicated to you the time, starting time. Okay. The duration is 3 hours, and the question paper may not really take 3 hours. Okay. So, you may be a little free before that. So, within that 3 hours you will have a time for a cup of tea after the exam. Okay. Syllabus is whatever we have done in this course. Okay. And heavy load will be on the later part, because the initial part was actually very trivial, and besides it involved a lot of CLL. Okay. So, the major part of the exam syllabus banks on the later part, which is the consolidated result of the quarters 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay. And that makes very good sense, because of two reasons. One is that somebody starting from scratch without having a good job at quarters 1, 2, 3 and directly jumping into quarter 4 cannot suddenly develop a very strong proficiency in quarter 4. So, just by testing somebody in quarter 4, which is in a way not only practical English, but to a good extent professional English, okay, we will judge whatever we needed to judge. Okay. The second reason for keeping it heavily on the later part is that if somebody says that I did not begin from scratch, I started with a reasonable level, and therefore, I do not care what is there in quarters 1, 2, 3. I want to concentrate on quarter 4, and I want you people to tell how good is in my English. We should be in a position to tell him that, and therefore, in the question paper we should not be framing too many questions which do not test the English background of the person, but tests the exposure and involvement in our lectures. We do not see any reason why should we insist on that. Okay. So, if our final goal is to ensure that people have good English level, and that we would like to test through the final exam. Okay. So, if he started at a very good position, or he has brought himself to that good position through quarters 1, 2, etc., we would like to put both of them at par, so far as the exam is concerned. Okay. And how to build vocabulary, how to improve communication skills. These things we have been telling in all the sessions. How to build vocabulary, of course, you should come across words, and to come across words, you need to read a lot and listen a lot, and of course, speak a lot, because unless you use them, even if you come across those words, you will miss them. And of course, you should be aware, you should be conscious that whenever a word poses problems, difficulties, that you feel that you better know that word, then do not be shy, do not be hesitant to consult a dictionary, okay, whether in the web or the fat book style. Okay. And of course, you need to read a lot, that part remains. This is one thing which people typically do not do. Okay. And so far as strategy and tactics are concerned, we have already given you some leads in that. That is, when you find 3-4 words which are related, irritant, irritation, okay, you say, oh really, there are lots of words related like that. Then one day whenever you have some free time, try to sit down and frame a word tree. So that word tree is a good way to exercise your own mind and dictionary and associated other resources to build a large number of words and connect them. Okay. So other tips and other leads we are going to cover in coming sessions. Apart from vocabulary, the same question says, or maybe it is an assembled version of quite a few good number of questions, how to improve communication skills. Okay. So of course, good vocabulary is a must, and a reasonable command over the syntax rules is actually important for that. Otherwise, haphazardly setting sets of words will not let you communicate your ideas well. And of course, you have to be forthcoming in opening your mouth and actually speaking. This issue we have earlier discussed. Okay. How far is the certificate going to help in industry? Many people have asked this question, and one of them we really loved the phraseology of that question. Abhinav from Patna says, "Sir, I am pursuing my graduation and I have to attend some competitive exams." Good, please do it. Our best wishes with you. Therefore, I will have to attend some interviews. So I am very curious to know about the worth of this very certificate. Will this certificate add some diamond in my CV or resume? Okay. We like this. A certificate is worth only that much. It's a certificate. Okay. So for people who have excellent command and who have got already an opportunity to open and show that command, they typically don't need a certificate. Okay. People who have extremely poor background, and if they have an opportunity to show their capabilities, then a certificate is not only not helpful, it is counterproductive, because very soon he will display how bad is his command. Okay. So his certificate will not convince anybody. It is the middle segment of people for whom a certificate is important. This is so far as the certificate printed and signed on paper, okay, or in any communicable form which has an official authorship. Other than that, certificate in the true sense of the term, original sense of the term, has another sense. For example, you interact with some people who know very good English, okay, and they give you some work, or you operate in some project with them, and at the end of it, some of those people who know extremely good English, they say that, hey man, your English is good, this is a certificate. Okay. So he has certified you, only to you for that matter. Okay. That has a value, because then you know that your good English has been confirmed by another person. Okay. So to that extent, in that sense, having somebody else acknowledge your strength has a value. Okay. Incidentally, I have got some appreciations and confirmations from some of the friends and admirers once in a while, but so far as an English certificate is concerned, I don't have one. Okay. So I cannot say that a certificate is a must. Okay. But yes, I told you that those who have already got an opportunity to display their command, to them certificate may not mind, but nowadays the population is so large and incumbents for every position are so many that it is sometimes difficult to get the entry, to get the opportunity to show your command. At that gateway, a certificate from a responsible and respectable source saying that this person has done this and his level is this, has a slight advantage over another candidate who does not have that. Okay. But as I said initially, a certificate is worth only that much. Okay. Beyond that, any recruiter would think that the other person has not done that course because maybe he did not need. But anyway, in your case, if you have the certificate, he will be sure that you have at least come through this and you have exposed your capability and got this note on it, which he can evaluate. So, this is some information rather than lack of information. Okay. There are some other questions here. How do we access the corrected assignments? That is a good question. Assignment grading is not going at a very fast schedule, but we will, as soon as we are at a reasonable position regarding the preparation and delivery of the actual lessons, we will spend more of our energy on that front, and before the session 40 goes in the net, I am sure many of you will have your assignments, good number of assignments graded, okay, and the marks will be available to you. And there are a few network issues also involved, software issues, interface issues also involved in this communication process regarding how we make available to you what we already have. Okay. So, some of such issues, network and software related issues also will need to settle in between. Issues regarding those candidates who have failed to submit their assignments and are willing to appear in the exam, grading weightage, exam and assignment. Okay. A little clarification on this may help many people who have a lot of dilemma. We have 3 strategies for grading, the final grading. Of course, not really 3 strategies. Okay, I am coming to that issue, going to tell you how the third strategy is also a strategy. Okay, so let us start with that presumption that we have 3 strategies for grading. Okay. Taking the word grading in the general sense of our evaluation of how good a person's English is at the moment of evaluation. Okay. Whether it was so even in 2014 or whether it has been so only recently, that is not of concern. One strategy, which is the main general strategy, is to count 40% of the weightage from the assignments and 60% from the exam. And we want to keep the arithmetic simple. So, every assignment is being graded out of 100 marks, and that means if you complete 40 assignments, then you actually target 4000 marks out of that. And we find that dividing a number with 10 is extremely easy. Okay. So, that we will do and then convert that marks out of 400. Okay. So, just get rid of the last digit and immediately we get the marks out of 400. The final exam paper has been set for 600. Okay. So, out of 600 we get a marks from somewhere else, that is from the final exam. So, out of 400 and out of 600 we take just sum of those two. Adding is easy, we can do it. Okay. So, then we have got the marks out of 1000, right. So, adding is easy. So, out of 1000 we have got the total marks. Okay. So, that gives you the final comparison among all the participants of the course. This is one strategy. the grand strategy. Okay. Now, we come to those people who have not submitted many of the assignments. What is many? Okay. So, out of 40, if you have submitted more than 30 assignments, then chances are high that you have got a reasonable amount of marks out of that. Okay. On the other hand, if you have submitted less than 10 assignments, then that will be almost useless. So, along with the grand strategy, we have also a subsidiary strategy in which we have put no assignment, only final exam. So, that will cover even those who say that we are following through the lessons, but we are busy people, we do not have time to go through all those assignments, but we started from a reasonable level. So, the moment you tell something in your lecture, we immediately understand. Okay. So, which is good. Okay. So, we have a lot of respect for them. They are busy, they are working, you see. Okay. They are doing important things. So, but then they value the certificate, which is also something good. I like myself to appear in exams. Okay. And then, so they will say that why don't you evaluate us from the exam only? We are ready to do it. So, our subsidiary strategy is to evaluate the exam paper and get a grade for those candidates only based on the exam without consideration of any of the assignments. And therefore, those questions that out of the 40 assignments I have submitted 26, etc., are all irrelevant. They need not be answered, they need not be asked. Okay? So, many people have asked me earlier in the forum, I have failed to submit 2 of the assignments, can I still appear in the exam? Of course, yes. Assignment submission is not a must for the entry into the exam hall. Okay? So, one can submit no assignment and yet enter the exam hall and come out with an elite certification. Okay, it is possible. There is no problem in that. So, this is subsidiary strategy for grading. And now, if there is a conflict between the subsidiary strategy, exam only, and the grand strategy, the entire marks, then we will give precedence to the sum, okay, entire marks. As I told you, there is a third strategy also for those, that is a purely academic strategy. That is for those who are submitting assignments with uncanny regularity, but who are not appearing in the exam. Okay. Since we have their assignments in our database, and since we have reason to believe that they are academically sincere to our program, we evaluate them without even evaluating their assignments. We evaluate them as the assets of the original project, and therefore, we will certainly go through their assignments with a lot of focus and make an evaluation based on those assignments only. Okay? And that will not be written on any certificate or anything, but we will find our way to communicate to them. Okay? So, but that is lower in priority so far as chronological order of our grading is concerned. Okay? What else is there? Sir, what is the difference between specially and especially? Actually, not much. Okay? Problems regarding registration process for those aspirants who are willing to take the tests living abroad, Korea. I don't know how to handle this. Okay, I am extremely sorry, but I do not manage that side, that part. I wonder whether Murli can help. Even Murli cannot help. Okay, anything else? Okay, not till now. Where is that? Oh, you saw something here. Which one? This the best method to teach English language and how. Okay. Yeah. M. Ehsan from Muzaffarpur. The best method to teach English language and how. Okay. These days, during July, August, September of 2015, we have decided to believe that this PELT course is the best method to teach English language. Okay. To Indians and which is practical. You know why I am telling you that? That we have decided to believe that this is the best method to teach English which is practical, because if we knew that there is anything better, then we would have adopted that. Okay. So, at any other time and perhaps by any other person also, perhaps it can be confirmed that this is possibly a very good method of teaching English language, particularly when what is a good method and sure method, on that there is a lot of confusion. Okay. For example, one of my earliest co-worker in the English proficiency program project, after seeing through this material, at that time the material was not in so packaged format, it was written in my notebook, okay, a total of 130 pages of quarters 1 to 3. Okay. So, when she saw some first 40-50 pages, then she was struck by the novelty of the theme and methodology of teaching English. And I remember her remarks. She is a school teacher, mind that. Okay. So, she knows. She said that, yes, many times I have felt that we really do not know how English is supposed to be taught. Those of us who have learned English, if we try to look back into our past, into our childhood, then we find that English just happened to us. We were not systematically and thoroughly and strategically taught English, and several people have succeeded in learning English in several different ways, many of them accidentally. Okay. So, to many of us English just happened, rather than we acquiring English in a sure manner, the way you acquire the skill to drive a car or swimming. Okay. So, away from that accidental happenings of somebody ending up learning English, away from all that, besides all that, what would be a sure and methodical way to learn English? Okay. So, Ekalavya can learn archery, how to build Arjuns. Okay. So, that is the issue. So, she said that looking at these EPP notes, I feel that maybe this is one possible way of teaching English, and we should try it enough and then see what is its end results. Okay. And to try it enough, you should try quarter 1 over an extended period on children of class 4, and when the same children go to class 5, then similarly give them quarter 2 in that extended form, and then in the next year give them quarter 3, and then next year quarter 4. And if the children go through all these successfully, then as a teacher you will be almost forced to design for them what you can call as module 5, 6, etc. Okay. And at that level there are a lot of resources available for you. Okay. And even before standard 4, if you want to start your children, then you can give that thing which we call module 0. In fact, you can contribute in formulating that, in framing that. Okay. So, as of now, we believe that EPP PELT is the best method to teach English language, because otherwise we would have tried the other method, okay, which is perhaps better. There is a new question? Okay. Yeah, this is a good question, and somebody asked that. That is good. Who asked that? From Kanpur, somebody asked. Yeah, thank you, Padmini Shukla. This is a question which should have been triggered. I want to answer that. Okay. Question pattern is not MCQ type. Okay. This question should be answered, because many people in today's age assume that question paper must be of MCQ type. Okay. And it's good for, of Padmini Shukla to think that it can be otherwise, because assignments were not MCQ. It is not MCQ, it is not right or wrong, it is not even fill in the blanks. It is asking you, the question paper is asking you words and sentences, actual full things. Sometimes it is asking you for paragraphs. Okay. So, be ready to handle all those kinds of really brain racking things which you were asked to do in the assignments. Okay. So, that kind of things. Anything else? You will have any questions? Yes.
Like if somebody is continuously speaking wrong English and not being corrected, how does that person improve?
He needs help, and the person who is going to help him will have a tough time, because wrong things learned take a lot of trouble to correct. And that is why I think that if I were teaching a class of children, I would have found my job easier, okay, because their mind is an empty slate on which I could write happily. Okay. So, adults have the advantage of higher processing power, yes, but okay, not all adults, okay. Because you cannot expect a high processing power from a 46-year-old person, okay. But 20 to 30, that age group has a lot of connections, a lot of background. So, that advantage they have, but they also have the debris of a lot of wrong learning. Okay. So, even after deciding that no, this is not the way to do it, okay, that is the correct way to do it, on the fly when they operate, they end up doing the wrong thing. The way people flout traffic rules, you know, many of them know what is the correct traffic rule. So, like that many of them cannot help while going on the wrong side. Okay. So, like that while speaking wrong English, many of them cannot help it. Okay. So, for example, Indians mess up between hands and arms, okay, even though everybody knows what is a hand and what is an arm, leg and feet, okay, and there are very awkward kinds of jokes which have developed based on the mistakes of one for the other. Okay. So, that is difficult. Anything else? Issues regarding exam centers, I don't know. I don't handle that. Okay. I think there was a list of the centers somewhere. Yeah. How many types of sentences in English? Don't get misled by our module summaries or quarter summaries like 14 types and 46 types and so on. Okay. Language is so rich and so vast, and ways of classification are so loose that you cannot really count the number of types of sentences. Okay. So, forget about that. In our summaries of 14 types at the end of quarter 1 and 46 types at the end of quarter 2, we were trying to take stock of what we have done during that period. Okay. So, up to how much we have come, and the moment at the end of quarter 3, we felt that we have covered most of the cases. We stopped making that counting. Okay. And till the end of quarter 3 also, we had primarily covered only simple sentences and with a little touch over compound sentences, and that was one of those important reasons why a quarter 4 or module 4 was essential at the end of ABP, and that is what we are doing in quarter 4 these days. Okay. So, that way if you go for a complete classification, you cannot really classify them, but yes, in grammar books there are classifications like types of sentences and subtypes, and then sentences can be classified and discussed based on voice, mood, tense and what not. Okay. And that different kinds of classifications itself already testifies to the fact of the difficulty that how difficult is that kind of a classification. And besides that, grammar book kind of classification should not fall in the purview of practical English. Okay. So, let us not bother about that. Vikramaditya Burman, thank you. He thanks for the lectures. Easy way to speak in English, my vocabulary is very bad, how can I develop it? Okay, already we have discussed that. You should read a lot. Any other good questions? Or you tell me the number. Makura? Oh, here. Is it required to know the technical jargon? No, not at all, not at all. But if we need to discuss, then we need some terms with the help of which we discuss, and that is why we end up using some of the terms. And in the initial part, we made a point to avoid the technical jargon as much as possible. For knowing a language, you don't need technical jargon, but to get hold of the language to the extent of teaching it systematically, you will need to converse at least with yourself using some terminology. Okay. So, when we tell a teacher that in our opinion it is important to teach the children those sentences first which have nothing other than subject and verb, okay, and then only at a later stage to introduce objects. How do we tell this to a teacher without uttering the word subject or verb or object? Okay. Then we will have to say that, my dear teacher, do you know, I think it will be important for you, it will be easier for you to first introduce sentences which has only the doer and the deed rather than on what that deed has been performed. This will be even worse compared to saying subject and verb and object. Okay. So, to that extent, we need to use jargon or technical terms. I mean, as long as possible, we can keep the discussion on simple understandable terms rather than technical ones. Okay. So, for subject, if you coin a simpler word, if the word doer, actor is more acceptable, one can do it. Action, if it is acceptable and understood correctly, it can be used rather than verb. But we felt that subject, verb, etc. are quite well understood, so we use that. But beyond that, jargon is not necessary for knowing good English, but for discussing that you need the words. Two more. How can we get the correct formats of writing formal letters? Oh, they are in most of the composition books. Any recommendation for a good grammar book on top of the course? Top or even bottom of the course, I would say. The foundation. We have already mentioned once, and I am ready to mention again. Our recommendation for a good grammar book is by Nesfield and Nesfield only. Okay. And it is also important to mention in this regard that I would advise you not to trust on some websites for doubt resolution on grammar, okay, because some websites have been developed by some people with some knowledge, okay, so and some amount of seriousness. So quite often I find people who come and start arguing with me on this and that topic and say that I have found this as written in websites somewhere here, there, and I find myself at a disadvantage because if I go and try to search for the topic in Google, it is possible that that topic turns up in 10,000 sites, out of which 450 are correct, okay, and out of which 125 explicitly support my position. Okay. So I find myself at a disadvantage. I quickly go to my room and get that blue book of Nesfield, and then come with that book, and then encounter my adversary, and now say, now tell what. Okay. So that helps. Okay. So that is why I suggest Nesfield and Nesfield only. Okay, so I think we have had a good session of question and answer, and this we have covered, and the assignment 35 we will put later. Okay, so today only this much. So thank you, and we will see you again in session 36. Thank you. Bye.